Gormagat Carhirlach, Tá sé saléir gohfuil an buséid seo ag churas deach ar daoine áirithe, agus tá sé saléir nachhfuil sé ag churas deach ar daoine eile in aon chur. And I think the first point I'd make is the principle of equality that should be driving budgets, and the real need for significant equality proofing when it comes to budgets. And when we look at the elderly, and I do acknowledge what wasn't touched, the basic rate, the fuel, the travel, but those positives have been undermined by the cuts that have come in and that are affecting people. And we saw the visible proof today by the massive attendance that was outside the Dail. And those cuts are eating into the independence and the dignity in the lives of elderly people in our communities. And you look at those people and you think about the lives that they've had. They've worked all their lives, many of them, they've worked very hard. You know, they've reared their children. And I know in parts of Dublin Central there are significant numbers who are now bringing up grandchildren because of addiction issues and because of suicide rates. And you know, what do we do? The other aspect about their lives as well is the major work that they do in their communities, and I would acknowledge the women particularly who have been the backbone in all the voluntary work that they have done all of their lives. And how do we acknowledge that? Well, we acknowledge that by adding stress and distress and anxiety for their lives. The medical card issue, I mean, there are incredible stories of people in their 70s and 80s with illnesses, with disabilities, with limited means, and the medical card goes. And they then have the stress now of filling in the forms and all that additional work, which will only prove that the card should not have been taken from them in the first place. There needs to be a realistic approach here. The telephone allowance does affect those elderly people who depend on the landline for their alarms. And again, we're looking at people of limited means. And I know the disability groups are particularly concerned with that. Again, they're people with limited means. They need that telephone allowance for the landline because they depend on the landline for their internet connection, which gives them information that they need to live their lives, and it is also their social connection as well. The prescription charge going from 50 to 250, it is a lot. I know you say it's the max is 25, but if you're on limited means, that's very significant. Another point I make before I finish is that what was outlined immediately by the One Family organisation as retrograde, the one family tax credit, that being removed, it's punishing those parents separated who are taking a collaborative approach to the rearing of their children. And I do think that has to be looked at again. It's causing a massive difficulty. We see the email coming in and that. And then finally, I mean, okay, you can pay for this if we could collect all of the 12.5% corporate tax. We don't collect it all. It's difficult to get the information. If we did, I think we would have the money, so these people are not affected.
I would ask, as your possession would, to adjourn this debate.
I move the adjournment.
Thank you. The Dáil now stands.